Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago. Coming up on the show, optimism in Accra turns Ghana stocks into January world beaters. India's Airtel sees little value in acquiring Nigeria's Nine Mobile. Plus, Mozambique takes legal action over $2 billion loans. Let's get started now with the markets. And here on the African continent, all the markets were in the red at intraday. The NSE index was down 1.14%, no thanks to Dangote Cement. The JSE index was down 0.10%, and the market in Egypt was down 1.27%. Nairobi also closed in the red on Tuesday. And in the Middle East, stock markets were mostly weak, with real estate shares pulling down Dubai. The Dubai index was 1.32% lower at intraday as blue chip Emma Properties sank 2.2%. Union Properties, Dare and Damac also slid. The Saudi index edged up, though by 0.81%. The Qatar index slid 1.33% on a wave of profit taking across the board. Falling stocks outnumbered gainers by 32-4. Qatar First Bank, the most heavily traded stock, dropped 1.6%. In Abu Dhabi, the index was down 0.79%. And in Europe, stocks were higher in early trade as investors monitored the release of economic data and corporate earnings. Let's get more from Daniel Cook, my colleague in Frankfurt. And good afternoon, Daniel. Thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Timmy, as well. Doing very well today. Hope on your end everything is fine as well.
Sure, we are doing great here. Now, stocks are in green territory this morning after President Trump's first State of the Nation address. What else is jumping up and down on the late night Tuesday speech?
Well, after we had quite some negative numbers here at the blue chip index DAX yesterday, today it is again recovering. Let me actually have a look. Yeah, we are up right now with 0.2%. So that's good news. Of course, everybody was monitoring here also on the trading floor the speech given by Donald Trump, his first real big speech that he was giving there. Of course, everybody was again monitoring what he was saying about North Korea. We remember that always when this tension between the United States and North Korea is again flaming up, then in many cases we see shares here also dropping at the blue chip index DAX. That's not the case today, but the dollar is giving still mostly, of course, investors in the United States quite some headache. The dollar index, that's always a good measurement to get an idea how strong or how not strong the dollar is performing, is again down. Investors are telling me that they are thinking that mostly the protectionism of the Trump government is the main reason for the weak dollar that we are seeing, and of course also the very booming economy here in Europe. Investors at the stock market in the United States and also here in Frankfurt, even though we are up, but as I just said, just slightly up, they are all waiting also for news that we will be getting from the Fed. It's going to be the last Fed meeting with Janet Yellen in charge. We remember that Donald Trump decided that her contract would not be extended, and Colin Powell is going to be the next Fed chief. Everybody will be very interested if there are going to be any kind of information about higher interest rates for the United States. We don't believe that this is going to be the case, that if this is going to happen, that Mr. Powell is going to be announcing those, but you don't know. The Fed in many cases has been very good for a surprise, so everybody here is eagerly waiting for news from the Fed as well.
Sure, we're all keeping a tab on that meeting. In the meantime, just wondering if you attended the Siemens press conference, wondering what it talked about. I know that their earnings, of course, are on top. Any sneak preview of those results?
Well, I didn't attend the press conference, but I was attending, and I will be talking about that in just a second. Actually, a demonstration that was taking place here outside of the stock market just about an hour ago. From here, yes, Siemens came out with numbers. Investors don't really know what to think about those numbers. In general, the performance of Siemens has been strong. They were making in the first quarter that actually finished on December 31st, 2.2 billion euros. Those numbers are up. The biggest problem for the company is actually their gas turbine business. Siemens was reporting that sales in the gas turbine business were down with 20% and their profit even down with 50%. Because of this problem, Siemens had already announced in the past that they would be cutting up to 6,000 jobs in the gas turbine business. Many workers, also here at very many production facilities in Germany, are now fearing that they could be losing their job. That's why we also saw this demonstration happening outside here of the stock market. They were telling me, I was talking to some workers a little bit earlier, they were telling me that they were the ones making the company so strong. Now they are very concerned what will be happening with their jobs. During the press conference, it was announced that maybe one of the production facilities in Görlitz, that's located in the German state of Saxony, could be maybe safe. This would be very good news for this area, because this is a rather rural area, was already for Germany at least with quite a high rate of unemployment. So yeah, to wrap this up, investors don't really know what to make out of the numbers. In general, shares were up. It seems that investors are rather happy with the overall performance of the company. Interesting also, because we are expecting this year the mega IPO here happening at the stock market with the Siemens company Healthineers. This is going to be the biggest IPO happening here at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange since more than 20 years. The numbers, though, that were provided today from Healthineers are also not that promising. Also, their profit went down with 15%. Investors here at my end are a little bit fearing that the big hype that they are hoping for with this IPO of Healthineers might not happen. Let's see.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens eventually when they come up with that IPO. Now, let's look at the data space. Euro area inflation data is out today. Give us some heads up.
Yeah, exactly. The news is that inflation, again, actually was dropping. Consumer prices were going up to a level of 1.3%. We're seeing right now the lowest inflation rate since past July, but it's still not reaching the goal of the European Central Bank. The goal of the European Central Bank is at a level of about 2%. That is the main reason why Mario Draghi, the head of the ECB, still doesn't want to change his monetary policy when it comes to higher interest rates here in the Eurozone and also the bond purchasing program. Even though many investors are saying, well, we're doing very well here. The economy is booming. Inflation is also not bad at all. Why you don't change it? But still, he does not want to change this. Also, to give you an idea, new unemployment data was released today for Germany. Actually, in January, it was going up a little bit with about 185,000 people more unemployed than we were seeing at before. But in general, January is always a very difficult month here when you talk about unemployment numbers. Usually orders and also sales in January, since it's winter here, is dropping. But in general, when you talk about the number now for January, it's still the lowest since 25 years. So good and bad news at the same time.
Well, January, of course, is really a difficult month for most people. Thank you very much for your time, Daniel. Enjoy the rest of the day.